The series begins with a young couple walking down the wedding aisle. The bride, Yoon-soo, introduces herself at 22 years old, and her handsome husband is Professor Jung Si-nayan. He put his thesis on hold to move into her house. They became a couple after knowing each other for just 3 days and got married a month later. However, this marriage is not what it seems, and their story is more complex than it appears. Despite it being a fake marriage, Yoon-soo doesn't hold back when kissing her groom. Some time ago, Yoon-soo and Si-nayan had a chance encounter at a coffee shop. It happened when Yoon-soo accidentally spilled her hot coffee, almost splashing it on Si-nayan, who was standing behind her. She also stepped on his foot in the process. Instantly, Yoon-soo was captivated with Si-nayan. However, Si-nayan remained unfazed and gently moved her aside. He offered her a tissue and advised her to be more careful. Yoon-soo found Si-nayan's critique annoying because he suddenly pointed out that she took too long to order her coffee, precisely 5 minutes and 23 seconds. Frustrated, she allowed Si-nayan to place the coffee order for her. To her surprise, Si-nayan handed the barista a note with precise details of the latte he wanted. The barista was a bit irritated by Si-nayan's meticulous instructions, but Si-nayan decided to make the coffee himself with great detail, specifying the exact water temperature of 90 degrees Celsius, the steam pressure, the angle of the cup, the method of stirring the coffee, and even the speed and direction of pouring the milk. This meticulousness revealed Si-nayan's perfectionist nature. After meticulously preparing the coffee to his exacting standards, Si-nayan suddenly refused to drink it because he realized the milk used was pure milk, and he was lactose intolerant. Yoon-soo, who had been cynically observing the entire coffee-making process, finally asked for the coffee herself, mocking Si-nayan for his peculiar behavior. In her next class, Yoon-soo found herself studying mathematics, and to her astonishment, her professor turned out to be Si-nayan, who arrived promptly. As Si-nayan started the class, he immediately established all the rules. Unbeknownst to him, many female students were more interested in admiring his handsome face and secretly taking photos of him. Rumors had it that Si-nayan was a genius professor. At the young age of 14, he had won a gold medal in the National Mathematics Olympiad. At 18, he entered the Institute of Technology in the United States, and in just 4 years and 3 months, he earned a Ph.D. Now, at 28, Si-nayan had become an associate professor at the Beijing campus. While Si-nayan began teaching, Yoon-soo was busy texting her friend Ji-yi, who was curious about Yoon-soo's famous and handsome new professor. Ji-yi demanded to see a photo of Si-nayan. Unlike other students who were sneakily taking photos, Yoon-soo spent time drawing Si-nayan in a cartoon form. However, Si-nayan discovered this and took Yoon-soo's sketchbook. Surprisingly, Si-nayan was not angry. Instead, he pointed out the mistakes in Yoon-soo's drawings and suggested she portray him more accurately. Yoon-soo felt embarrassed as she becoming the center of attention in the class. After finishing her classes for the day, she eagerly shared her experiences with Ji-yi. However, to Yoon-soo's surprise, Ji-yi didn't seem to sympathize with her. In fact, Ji-yi was quite impressed with Si-nayan. Ji-yi even asked Yoon-soo to take her along to Si-nayan's class in the future. This made Yoon-soo feel irritated, and she sternly told Ji-yi not to develop any feelings for Si-nayan. She explained that Si-nayan had embarrassed her in front of the whole class. Ji-yi, on the other hand, reminded Yoon-soo about the importance of showing respect to their professor, as the professor played a significant role in shaping their academic future. However, Yoon-soo quickly pointed out that her thesis defense was just a week away, and she would soon graduate. After their conversation, Yoon-soo had big plans for her future. She wanted to find a stable job, purchase her own house, and adorn the walls of her new home with her own artwork. As fate would have it, Yoon-soo had a job interview scheduled for the next day. In her time of need, she turned to Ji-yi and borrowed some clothes for the important occasion. Ji-yi, being a supportive and caring friend, happily lent her the clothes she needed. The next day, Yoon-soo had an important job interview. When they asked her about her skills, she could only mention her talent for drawing comics. Unfortunately, this response didn't work in her favor, and she didn't get the job. Yoon-soo felt stressed because finding employment was proving to be quite challenging for her. While she was feeling frustrated in the restroom, she bumped into another woman who was also upset because she had spilled something on her white shirt. The woman wanted to clean it with water, but Yoon-soo quickly realized that this wouldn't work and suggested a different solution. Yoon-soo used her artistic skills to draw a cartoon face on the shirt, covering up the stain. The woman was amazed by Yoon-soo's drawing ability and asked for her name. To Yoon-soo's surprise, the woman turned out to be a director at the same company where Yoon-soo had interviewed. As Yoon-soo was leaving, one of the interviewers who had previously rejected her approached and informed her that they had decided to hire her, based on the director's recommendation. That evening, Yoon-soo received a call from her older sister, Yoon-mund, who was working abroad. Yoon-mund instructed Yoon-soo to go to the bank the next day to handle their inheritance money from their late parents. She also told Yoon-soo to deposit the money for her own use. However, Yoon-soo didn't know much about financial matters and initially hesitated to follow her sister's orders. This led to Yoon-mund scolding Yoon-soo, but eventually Yoon-soo gave in and decided to follow her sister's instructions. The following day, Yoon-soo headed to the bank for her appointment. While she was listening to the bank employee's explanation, she noticed C9 at the nearby desk. This made her lose her focus on what the bank employee was saying, and she tried to hide her face from C9. However, C9 had already noticed Yoon-soo from the beginning and was actually paying close attention to the bank employee's advice to Yoon-soo. In a teasing manner, C9 remarked that Yoon-soo's intelligence level was a bit low and left her a note suggesting that she should invest in real estate. Yoon-soo then followed his advice without hesitation. After her bank visit, Yoon-soo met up with her cousin, Won-ben, who worked as a property consultant. They discussed real estate, and Won-ben showed her a picture of a house that he thought would be perfect for her. Initially, Yoon-soo was hesitant because of the high price, but Won-ben convinced her to buy the house, reminding her of their late parents' dream. When Yoon-soo was a child, her family lived in a small old apartment building, and she used to get scolded for drawing on the walls. But her father had always reassured her that one day they would have a spacious home of their own where she could draw to her heart's content. Won-ben convinced Yoon-soo that investing in real estate was a stable choice, and she agreed to use her inheritance money for it, even without seeing the house in person. Excited about her decision, Yoon-soo showed her friends, Ji-yi and Lee Nuo, a picture of the house she intended to buy. Both friends were envious and congratulated her. Yoon-soo invited them to celebrate with drinks, even though she had her thesis defense the next day. Ji-yi was initially worried that Yoon-soo might oversleep and be late, but Yoon-soo assured her that she would set an alarm and pass her defense. Meanwhile, C9 was deeply engrossed in researching spleen cancer. He reached out to a hospital in Japan, seeking consultation on how to treat this disease. The next day, Yoon-soo received an urgent call from Won-ben, who insisted that she come immediately to sign the house contract and make the down payment. Won-ben claimed that many others were interested in the house, which left Yoon-soo in a state of panic. She rushed to meet Won-ben instead of preparing for her thesis defense, and this resulted in her arriving late for the defense. To make matters worse, Yoon-soo accidentally bumped into C9, who had briefly left the defense room to take an important medical-related phone call. When Yoon-soo finally started her presentation, C9 suddenly declared that she would not pass because she was 5 minutes and 57 seconds late. He explained that she had violated university rules, leading to her thesis being disqualified. C9 even went into statistical theory and linked it to Yoon-soo's lateness, which infuriated her. She criticized C9 for his arrogant attitude, declaring him to be the most arrogant teacher she had ever encountered. In response, C9 countered Yoon-soo's argument by suggesting that if she wanted to compare him to other teachers, she should have met all the teachers in the world. This left Yoon-soo unable to respond, and she had to leave the room in tears. As a result of this incident, Yoon-soo couldn't obtain her degree for her job, even though her company required it. Desperate to find a solution, Yoon-soo tried to talk to the university staff, but her efforts were in vain as the rules had to be followed. She returned to her dormitory and met with Ji-yi and Lee Nuo, breaking down in Ji-yi's arms. Ji-yi tried to comfort her by reminding her that she still had her new house. She suggested that Yoon-soo take a year to recharge her energy in her new home so that she could complete her thesis defense the following year. With the support of Ji-yi and Lee Nuo, Yoon-soo's spirits were lifted. She eagerly headed to her new home, excited about the apartment complex that Won-ben had praised. Finding her apartment was a breeze, and it was indeed beautiful and spotless. The furnishings were complete and in perfect condition. Yoon-soo was overjoyed to have such a lovely home and couldn't resist recording a video to show it off to Yoon-mund. However, her excitement took an unexpected turn when she entered one of the rooms and found it filled with books and certificates. To her surprise, the bathroom door suddenly swung open, and there stood C9, wrapped only in a towel. Both of them were taken aback by the unexpected encounter. Yoon-soo, in her fluster, accidentally left her camera on and unintentionally snapped a photo of C9. This led to a misunderstanding, and C9 grabbed Yoon-soo, pressing her against a bookshelf, leaving her quite nervous. C9 questioned how Yoon-soo had entered his apartment, but she insisted that the place was rightfully hers. Just as things were getting tense, a box fell, almost hitting Yoon-soo, but C9 swiftly protected her. For a moment, Yoon-soo considered that she might have entered the wrong apartment and hastily left. However, she soon returned, convinced that it was indeed her apartment, as her key matched C9's door. To support her case, Yoon-soo presented the house purchase contract and a photo of the certificate from Wongbin. Yoon-soo explained that her cousin had told her that the house's owner was abroad. Wongbin admitted that the certificate would arrive in a few days. C9 became suspicious of Wongbin, but Yoon-soo didn't doubt him. C9 checked Yoon-soo's purchase documents and declared that she had been deceived by Wongbin. However, Yoon-soo didn't believe this because she trusted her cousin, especially since Wongbin had given her the actual house keys and an access card. C9 then took Yoon-soo to the front door and used his own key. Afterward, he asked her to try her key again, but it didn't work. C9 explained that the key Wongbin had given her was a renovation key. He had always used a password to enter during the renovation, and he had only recently activated the official house key. Thus, Yoon-soo's key was no longer valid. C9 deduced that Wongbin had deceived Yoon-soo by creating a crisis. As a real estate agent, Wongbin could easily access renovation keys and other house information, but couldn't obtain the original documents. So he pressured Yoon-soo to sign quickly while she was rushing to her thesis defense, claiming that someone else urgently wanted the excellent house. Yoon-soo fell into this trap due to the time pressure created by Wongbin. C9 then urged Yoon-soo to leave his house and advised her to find Wongbin, wanting no further involvement in her problem. Following the disappointing revelation about Wongbin's deception, Yoon-soo headed to his office, hoping to find answers. However, she arrived to find that Wongbin had vanished without a trace. To make matters worse, Yoon-soo discovered that Wongbin had lied about his job. He wasn't employed by a real estate company, and the business card he had given her was a fake. Wongbin had even relocated to an unknown place, leaving Yoon-soo feeling utterly disheartened. In her sadness, Yoon-soo received a comforting call from Ji-hee, who invited her to meet for a meal. Over their food, Yoon-soo poured her heart out, sharing her problem and shedding tears. Ji-hee suggested trying to locate Wongbin's parents, but Yoon-soo didn't want to disturb them, knowing that they weren't in good health. When Ji-hee proposed reporting the case to the police, Yoon-soo refused, burdened by guilt. Ji-hee and Lee Nuo grew frustrated with Yoon-soo's overly kind nature, and Lee Nuo asked her which she valued more, her inheritance or Wongbin's reputation. Ji-hee once again suggested involving the police, this time along with C9. Initially, Yoon-soo resisted, believing that C9 had no connection to the case. Frustrated by Yoon-soo's innocence, Ji-hee scolded her, reminding her that the house belonged to C9, making him a part of the situation. Despite their frustration, Ji-hee and Lee Nuo felt sympathy for Yoon-soo. In the end, they'd sent her some money so she wouldn't go hungry, which moved Yoon-soo to tears, grateful for having such true friends. The following day, Yoon-soo approached C9 on campus and asked him to accompany her to the police station. However, C9 refused, claiming he had no time and asserting that the case had nothing to do with him. He began lecturing Yoon-soo on the chances of recovering her lost money, but she stormed off in anger before he could finish. Shortly afterward, C9 received a call from his colleague about an urgent hospital matter. He entrusted his work to his coworker and hurried to the hospital. As he reached the hospital's parking lot, he noticed Yoon-soo inspecting a car, thinking it was his. When Yoon-soo spotted C9, she abruptly demanded that he take her to the police, even raising her foot toward the car in an attempt to threaten him. She blamed C9 for her misfortune, as he had discouraged her from investing in other financial products, leading her to buy a house and ultimately fall victim to deception. Yoon-soo believed that C9 indirectly contributed to her problem. However, C9 disagreed, explaining that although he had advised her to invest in real estate, it was Wongbin's deceit that had caused her troubles, and he had no involvement in it. Regardless, Yoon-soo insisted that C9 accompany her to the police, and he reluctantly agreed, realizing there was no time to argue further. But before they left, C9 clarified that the car she had stepped on was not his, making Yoon-soo feel guilty. Not long after, Dr. Jung, a doctor from the hospital, called C9. Meanwhile, Yoon-soo's bag strap accidentally got caught on C9's car side mirror, causing her to stumble. C9 rushed to help her, but the situation ended up with him inadvertently on top of Yoon-soo, leaving them both in a momentary daze. However, a call from Dr. Jung quickly snapped them out of it, and they awkwardly moved away from each other before making their way to the hospital. Not long after, C9 met with Dr. Jung in a hospital room. Dr. Jung explained the progression of the disease, but it became apparent from their conversation that C9 wasn't the one afflicted with the illness. Dr. Jung discussed the spreading cancer cells and recommended immediate surgery for the patient, expressing concern that delaying it could shorten their life even further. However, he also cautioned that surgery couldn't guarantee the cancer wouldn't spread further, as the medical field was unpredictable. C9 felt even more sorrowful upon hearing this news. C9 then visited the patient's room, which turned out to be his grandfather, Mao Ji. Finding his grandfather asleep, C9 decided not to disturb him and left with a heavy heart. Upon returning to his car, he noticed that Yoon-soo had fixed the broken side mirror with a bandage. C9 didn't express any displeasure about it and drove Yoon-soo to the police station. Upon their arrival, Yoon-soo hesitated. She was unwilling to disclose the full extent of her financial losses due to Wang Ben's scam. In fact, she ran away when the police informed her that for a fraud case involving 2 million yuan, she could face a 10-year prison sentence. Later, C9 found Yoon-soo in the parking lot and inquired why she had changed her mind. Yoon-soo explained that she couldn't believe Wang Ben had deceived her because he had been one of the closest people to her since childhood, aside from her elder sister. C9 firmly asserted that Wang Ben had indeed deceived her and taken her money, betraying her trust. Yoon-soo surprised C9 by expressing her willingness to forgive him. Yoon-soo clarified that she hadn't forgiven Wang Ben, but she didn't want him to be ruined because of the situation. Upon hearing this, C9 promptly added Yoon-soo as a friend on WeChat. He explained that he would send her a message detailing the facts of how Wang Ben had deceived her. This message would serve as C9's testimony, since he wouldn't be accompanying her any longer. C9 also provided her with his trusted law firm's business card, so Yoon-soo could seek legal assistance if necessary. Yoon-soo expressed her gratitude and mentioned owing C9 a favor, but he declined, not liking to have others owe him favors. Still curious, C9 asked for Yoon-soo's opinion on whether people were allowed to lie. Yoon-soo explained that lying was generally not allowed, but lying for a good cause could be acceptable. However, C9 disagreed with her answer, maintaining that a lie was still a lie, with no inherent goodness or badness. Yoon-soo, however, disagreed with C9's viewpoint. She argued that if a lie had a positive purpose and could improve someone's situation, it was acceptable. She also questioned C9 if he had never told a lie before. This made C9 ponder deeply, recalling his conversation with Dr. Jung earlier. Dr. Jung hadn't entirely agreed with C9 revealing the truth to his grandfather, as some patients would become emotional upon learning about their illness. Only a few patients possessed the psychological strength to handle such news. Therefore, most families of patients chose to keep their condition hidden. C9 opened up to Yoon-soo, admitting that he had never told a lie before. Upon hearing this, Yoon-soo deduced that C9 had never encountered a situation that had forced him to lie. This realization troubled C9. In the end, Yoon-soo had not graduated this year and was now facing eviction from the university dormitory due to renovations. She had to watch her friends celebrate their graduation while she packed her belongings to leave the dormitory. Fortunately, Ji-hee had heard about her situation and immediately invited Yoon-soo to move into her dormitory. Ji-hee sympathized with Yoon-soo and tried to uplift her spirits. She believed that Yoon-soo could overcome this challenge, which filled Yoon-soo with optimism. She even shared her feelings with her childhood bunny doll named 5000. Yoon-soo's dad had given her 5000 as a birthday gift when she was a child. She had deliberately named it 5000, hoping her dad would earn a monthly salary of 5,000 yuan. Her dad had chuckled at the name and assured her that 5,000 would always be there to ensure she could sleep peacefully every night. The following day, Ji-hee's dormitory faced an inspection by the dormitory supervisor, and she frantically tried to convince the supervisor to let Yoon-soo stay for 2 more days. Unfortunately, the dormitory supervisor refused and expelled Yoon-soo. Ji-hee felt frustrated and was on the verge of confronting the supervisor, but her actions prompted a threat to report her to the faculty. Seeing the tense situation, Yoon-soo conceded and said she would move out immediately. However, she didn't know where to go, so Ji-hee called Lee Nuo for assistance. Before long, they reached the hospital where Lee Nuo worked as a nurse. Lee Nuo assured Yoon-soo that there was an available resting room for nurses at the hospital, where she could stay without any disturbances. Lee Nuo also mentioned that Yoon-soo should have approached him initially instead of going to Ji-hee. Ji-hee felt irritated hearing this and exchanged sarcastic remarks with Lee Nuo. Their argument made it seem like they were former lovers, and it was evident that Lee Nuo still had feelings for Ji-hee. However, Ji-hee received a call from her new boyfriend, Gu-sho, who invited her to watch a movie. Ji-hee sweetly asked Gu-sho to pick her up at the hospital, and he arrived in his luxury car shortly after. Ji-hee warmly embraced Gu-sho and introduced him to her two friends, while Lee Nuo, feeling jealous, couldn't help but make sarcastic remarks. Yoon-soo quickly intervened, suggesting that Ji-hee and Gu-sho should leave. Later, Lee Nuo asked Yoon-soo to wait for a moment in the hospital's garden as he wanted to tidy up the room for Yoon-soo. While strolling in the garden, Yoon-soo accidentally tripped over a patient's foot, startling her. To her surprise, the patient turned out to be Mao-ji, who happened to be C9's grandfather, and was trapped under a garden bench, unable to free himself. Mao-ji requested Yoon-soo's assistance, and she tried her best to help him get out from behind the bench. Mao-ji had actually been trying to retrieve his hidden cigarettes but ended up stuck instead. They quickly struck up a conversation, and Yoon-soo inquired about Mao-ji's illness. Mao-ji confessed that he didn't know the details because his grandson didn't want to tell him, and he was too lazy to ask. Nonetheless, Mao-ji believed that his illness couldn't be cured. Upon hearing this, Yoon-soo forbade him from smoking, fearing it might hinder his recovery. However, Mao-ji explained that he was old and just wanted to enjoy life. Yoon-soo gently suggested that Mao-ji's grandson might have had a good reason for not disclosing his illness. Mao-ji then revealed that his ultimate wish was to witness his grandson starting a family. An idea suddenly sparked in Mao-ji's mind to play matchmaker between his grandson and Yoon-soo, so he inquired if she had a boyfriend. Yoon-soo, feeling a bit awkward, admitted that she didn't have a boyfriend. Mao-ji grew enthusiastic, believing that Yoon-soo and his grandson could be a great match. He even offered to introduce them to each other. However, Yoon-soo blushed and politely declined, believing that relationships were a matter of destiny. She reassured Mao-ji that if he underwent his treatment well and quit smoking, his grandson would eventually introduce his girlfriend. After a nurse came to assist Mao-ji, Lee Nuo returned and led Yoon-soo to an empty nurse's resting room where she could stay for 2 days since Lee Nuo's friends were away on vacation. Meanwhile, C9 arrived to visit his grandfather, Mao-ji, and warmly kissed his forehead. C9 suspected that Mao-ji had been smoking and decided to check his belongings. In Mao-ji's pocket, he discovered a hidden pack of cigarettes. C9 questioned him about it, but Mao-ji assured him that he hadn't smoked recently. Afterwards, C9 met with Dr. Jung and discussed the urgency of Mao-ji's surgery. However, Dr. Jung reminded him that the patient's consent was essential. C9 needed to find a way to persuade Mao-ji to agree to the operation. When C9 returned to his grandfather, he decided to tell a white lie, assuring Mao-ji that the surgery would improve his condition. Mao-ji, a mathematician like his grandson, quickly realized that C9 was not being honest. He knew that C9's decision to settle down indicated that his condition was likely hopeless. Mao-ji's main concern was witnessing C9's wedding, as he had failed to provide him with a complete and happy family during his childhood. Mao-ji then inquired about C9's relationship status, prompting C9 to find himself in a situation that required a well-intentioned lie. C9 fabricated the story about having a girlfriend and promised to introduce her to Mao-ji after the surgery. Mao-ji was overjoyed and provided written consent for the operation. C9 then consulted with Dr. Jung, who emphasized the critical nature of the surgery and the importance of respecting Mao-ji's wishes. Recognizing that his mood seemed significantly improved today, even adding a loving touch to his signature. On that evening, Yoon-soo was enjoying her new room when an unsuspecting chubby male nurse entered and began changing his clothes, unaware of her presence. Confused and unsure of what to do, Yoon-soo screamed and covered her eyes as the nurse nonchalantly started to remove his undergarments. Upon realizing there was a girl in the room, the nurse hastily gathered his clothes and left, clearly embarrassed. Meanwhile, C9 was determined to fulfill his grandfather's wish of seeing him with a girlfriend. He had the idea to ask a nurse to pretend to be his girlfriend, even offering to pay an amount equal to 3 days' worth of a nurse's salary for just half an hour of acting, which involved standing beside him and smiling. Initially, the nurse was excited about the prospect, but when C9 clarified that it was all pretense, the nurse declined the offer, becoming annoyed and walking away. Baffled by the nurse's refusal, C9 spotted Yoon-soo walking down the hospital corridor. He approached her and urgently explained his need for assistance in creating a well-intentioned lie by pretending to be his girlfriend for his grandfather. C9 led Yoon-soo to meet his grandfather, but she quickly let go of his hand, finding the idea too extreme. However, as Mao-ji was being prepared for surgery, Yoon-soo recognized him as the grandfather she had encountered in the garden earlier, the one who wished to see his grandson start a family. Understanding C9's predicament, Yoon-soo had a change of heart. She introduced herself as C9's girlfriend to Mao-ji, assuring him that his grandson would introduce his real girlfriend after the surgery. Mao-ji was overjoyed and eagerly consented to the operation, with newfound determination to live. Even the doctors were impressed by the transformation in Mao-ji's attitude, seeing a newfound will to live in him. Some time later, outside the operating room, Yoon-soo felt a sense of sympathy for C9. He appeared visibly anxious as he kept his eyes glued to the operating room's entrance. Wanting to offer comfort, Yoon-soo handed him a cup of instant coffee and stood steadfastly by his side, providing support during the agonizing wait for Mao-ji's operation. In an attempt to divert C9's attention from the tense atmosphere, Yoon-soo asked him to teach her how to play Sudoku. C9 reluctantly agreed, and for a brief moment, the game served as a distraction. However, C9 proved to be quite skilled, swiftly winning the game. Curiosity eventually got the better of C9, and he inquired whether Yoon-soo had met his grandfather before. She admitted to having encountered Mao-ji earlier, though she had been unaware of his connection to C9 at the time. Yoon-soo went on to explain her presence at the hospital, revealing that she had come to stay in her friend's room out of necessity. She had been forced to vacate her university dormitory due to ongoing renovations. C9 asked why she hadn't simply rented a house, to which Yoon-soo replied that she lacked the funds as her savings had been invested in buying a house. Consequently, she found herself financially constrained and unable to afford rent. Additionally, her elder sister remained abroad, leaving Yoon-soo without any familial support. Nonetheless, Yoon-soo remained optimistic, believing that her problems would soon find a solution once she secured a job. C9, on the other hand, felt guilty for disrupting Yoon-soo's thesis defense back when his grandfather's health issues arose. He expressed his intention to take responsibility for the challenges she faced. However, Yoon-soo assured C9 that he need not harbor any guilt. Despite her initial anger towards him, she had come to realize that she was also partly at fault. Just as C9 was about to say more, news arrived that his grandfather's operation had successfully concluded. Dr. Jung informed C9 that the surgery had been a success, and Mao-ji's condition had stabilized thanks to his strong will to survive, which had carried him through the critical moments during the operation. C9 breathed a sigh of relief, but when he turned around, Yoon-soo had already departed. Determined to find her, C9 eventually located Yoon-soo, who was preparing to leave the hospital without any clear destination in mind. C9 expressed his gratitude to Yoon-soo, recognizing that her assistance had played a crucial role in saving his grandfather. Yoon-soo, feeling relieved, bid her farewells. Aware that she had nowhere to go, C9 offered her the passcode to his home, consisting of the top 10 constants of van der Waals. He also informed Yoon-soo that she could stay at his house for a month. Their conversation concluded abruptly as C9 left before Yoon-soo could respond. Yoon-soo eventually made her way back to C9's home, although she had no clue about the top 10 constants of van der Waals to enter. She found herself waiting outside the door, feeling a bit puzzled. Thankfully, C9 seemed to have guessed her situation and sent her a message with the numerical house code. C9 also had a change of heart, allowing Yoon-soo to stay at his place until she could find a more permanent residence. With the code in hand, Yoon-soo could finally enter the house. Once inside, Yoon-soo couldn't help but admire how well organized and spotlessly clean C9's house was. The house was impeccably clean because C9 was a cleanliness enthusiast. Before long, a delivery person arrived with a large and heavy package. Upon seeing Yoon-soo, the courier assumed she was C9's girlfriend and acted overly familiar, even addressing her as his sister-in-law. Before Yoon-soo could explain, the courier hurriedly left after delivering the package. In her attempt to move the bulky package, Yoon-soo accidentally opened it, spilling out its contents. To her surprise, it contained several childhood photos of C9 with his grandfather. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mao-ji remained unconscious, but Dr. Jung assured C9 that his grandfather's condition was stable and positive. Dr. Jung also reminded C9 to continue fulfilling Mao-ji's wishes. When C9 returned home, he discovered the empty package discarded outside. Yoon-soo had fallen asleep on the sofa, and her belongings were scattered around. Initially, C9 appeared displeased with the mess in his orderly home. However, when he noticed that Yoon-soo had carefully arranged his photos and even drew a picture of his house, he couldn't help but be moved. He kindly covered Yoon-soo with a blanket. Yet, her open mouth seemed to bother him, so he decided to cover her entire head with the blanket. As Yoon-soo slept, she had a dream where Wongbin returned and claimed she had entered the wrong apartment. He insisted that her apartment was next door, showing her certificates and official documents in her name. In her dream, Yoon-soo was touched by Wongbin's honesty and knew he wouldn't deceive her. However, it was just a dream, and in reality, she was still sleeping soundly under her blanket. Shortly after, C9 noticed that Yoon-soo was tossing and turning restlessly in her sleep with her head wrapped in the blanket. Concerned, he decided to uncover her gently, but Yoon-soo, still asleep, murmured and called out to Wongbin. Curious about her words, C9 leaned closer to listen. Suddenly, Yoon-soo shouted Wongbin's name, startling C9 and causing him to accidentally drop a biscuit stick he was eating into her wide-open mouth. Yoon-soo remained asleep, and the biscuit stick continued to move up and down in her mouth. C9 attempted to retrieve it and nearly succeeded. However, Yoon-soo suddenly woke up, unintentionally headbutting C9 so hard that his nose started bleeding. She woke up confused about why C9's nose was bleeding and even more puzzled when she tasted something sweet on her tongue, not knowing where it came from. Shortly after, Yoon-lun contacted Yoon-soo through a video call and asked her to turn on the camera to show her home. Yoon-soo was hesitant because she feared her sister would realize it wasn't her real home. In the end, Yoon-soo reluctantly turned on the front camera and showed C9's study room filled with books. Yoon-lun didn't suspect anything, although she found it strange because Yoon-soo wasn't known for reading many books. However, as she passed by a glass door, Yoon-lun briefly saw the closed bathroom door, which piqued her curiosity. She asked Yoon-soo to show her the bathroom, and Yoon-soo panicked because C9 was inside. The bathroom door was about to be opened by C9, so Yoon-soo hurriedly tried to block it. She made an excuse, claiming the door was broken, and abruptly ended the call, saying she needed to fix it. C9 was puzzled by Yoon-soo's recent behavior, and she explained that she was just checking on him to make sure he was okay. C9 then invited Yoon-soo to talk. C9 had established rules and divided the house now that they were living together. He used masking tape boundaries to divide each area of the house fairly and set a schedule for bathroom usage, strictly prohibiting Yoon-soo from using it outside of her designated time. C9 had printed out all these rules for them to follow. Yoon-soo wasn't pleased with these strict regulations, but she had no choice but to comply. C9 instructed her to sleep in his study room, but he also had a schedule for its use. From 9 p.m. to 10 a.m., it would be Yoon-soo's bedroom, and from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., it would be his study room. However, these rules would officially start tomorrow, and Yoon-soo had to follow them. Yoon-soo thanked C9 for letting her stay with him, but she also realized she needed to pay rent and living expenses. Sadly, she had no money, so she offered to do household chores and cooking to cover her expenses. C9 agreed but insisted on covering her living expenses. The next morning, C9 woke up early, cleaned up, and got ready for the day. Meanwhile, Yoon-soo overslept and woke up at 8:30 a.m. She urgently needed to use the bathroom, but C9 reminded her about the bathroom schedule that allowed her in after 8 a.m. Yoon-soo pleaded with him, and he reluctantly agreed, giving her just 3 minutes. Yoon-soo hurried to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, but ended up burning the eggs and toast, creating a mess. C9 took over and prepared breakfast efficiently, making only one portion for Yoon-soo, hoping she would understand his work routine better and manage her time more effectively in the future. In short, Yoon-soo went to a real estate agency to look for a rental house. At first, she hoped to find a beautiful house, but it turned out to be too expensive, and she didn't have enough money for it. The agent then mentioned a place that fit her budget, but it was a shared rental, which wasn't exactly what Yoon-soo had in mind. However, she didn't mind it too much because she was willing to live anywhere. On the other hand, C9 received a call from Dr. Jung, asking him to come to the hospital urgently. Mao Ji, who was in the hospital, had woken up but was feeling emotionally unstable, and Dr. Jung was considering giving him a sedative. C9 rushed to the hospital and was worried about Mao Ji's condition. However, when he arrived, Dr. Jung seemed relaxed and told him that Mao Ji's emotions had improved thanks to Yoon-soo. When C9 peeped into the room, he saw Yoon-soo taking care of his grandfather with great care. She was doing a fantastic job, having experience in looking after her own dad before he passed away. When C9 entered the room, Mao Ji suddenly said he was thirsty, but there was no water available. Yoon-soo quickly went out to fetch some water. It seemed like an excuse for Mao Ji to have a private conversation with C9. Mao Ji began to tell C9 about a strange dream he had while he was unconscious. In his dream, he saw two quantum particles, one rotating forward and the other rotating backward. Even though they were far apart, they somehow followed similar paths and frequencies, which was difficult to explain using modern science. C9 became puzzled by what Mao Ji was trying to convey. Mao Ji had an unusual wish. He thought of Yoon-soo and C9 as two quantum particles and wanted them to get married. When C9 heard this, he immediately refused, which made Mao Ji upset. At the same time, Yoon-soo got worried when she saw a nurse rushing into Mao Ji's room to take care of him. Even though Mao Ji's condition was getting worse, C9 kept refusing his request. However, Yoon-soo, concerned about Mao Ji, agreed to whatever he asked, even though he hadn't mentioned his request yet. When they were about to leave the hospital, C9 told Yoon-soo about Mao Ji's wish for them to get married. This made Yoon-soo regretful, because she had promised to do whatever Mao Ji wanted. She had only wanted to calm him down, but now it seemed like a big commitment. Yoon-soo felt like C9 had deceived her, starting from when he asked her to pretend to be his girlfriend, then invited her to live with him, and now proposing marriage. C9 didn't like Yoon-soo's dramatic accusations and told her she should be a scriptwriter for dramas. Yoon-soo asked him what they should do next, and C9 said he had an idea but told her to be prepared for whatever might come their way. The following day, Yoon-soo felt a bit unsure about going to the hospital, but eventually she decided to go. When she reached Mao Ji's room, she noticed that there were many visitors, and Mao Ji was pretending to be asleep. However, Mao Ji woke up excitedly upon seeing Yoon-soo and told her that people only visited him when they needed money, so Mao Ji didn't want to talk to them. Mao Ji asked why Yoon-soo had come alone and not with C9. Feeling awkward, Yoon-soo admitted that she had intentionally come alone because she wanted to talk to Mao Ji about something important. She wanted to confess the truth about her relationship with C9. However, it seemed that Mao Ji already knew their relationship was fake and what Yoon-soo wanted to say, but he didn't want to hear it. Mao Ji interrupted her and announced to his visitors that Yoon-soo was C9's future wife, and they were getting married soon. Everyone cheered and showed their support, making Yoon-soo hesitant to deny it. In the end, she gave up on telling Mao Ji the truth. As Yoon-soo was leaving, one of Mao Ji's visitors approached her and advised her to have children soon because C9 was getting older. Yoon-soo was young, so she would likely recover quickly after giving birth. Not knowing how to respond, she awkwardly smiled and agreed with the advice. Meanwhile, Lee Nu overheard part of their conversation and misunderstood the situation. She immediately called Ji-yi to inform her that Yoon-soo wanted to have a child. Not long after, Lee Nu and Ji-yi confronted Yoon-soo, seeking an explanation for her recent actions. She had argued with C9 before, but now they were pretending to be a couple and living together, with Yoon-soo even claiming to be pregnant. Yoon-soo denied the pregnancy and explained that C9's sick grandfather had wanted them to get married, and she didn't know how to avoid it. However, Ji-yi was puzzled because Yoon-soo had previously admitted to hating C9. Yoon-soo replied that she no longer hated him after getting to know him better. Ji-yi assumed Yoon-soo was willing to marry C9, but Yoon-soo denied it, clarifying that C9 was her professor. Lee Nu also disagreed with Yoon-soo marrying someone she didn't love. Then, Lee Nu asked if Yoon-lun knew about the issue with the house. Yoon-soo revealed that her sister didn't know yet, and she was afraid to tell her. Now, Yoon-soo was using one crisis to hide another. Soon after, Yoon-lun suddenly called and told Yoon-soo she was returning to China and staying at her house. Yoon-lun instructed Yoon-soo to prepare a room for her and abruptly ended the call before Yoon-soo could say anything. This new problem overwhelmed Yoon-soo. Lee Nu asked about news regarding Wang Ben, but Yoon-soo hadn't received any updates. Lee Nu offered to help her friend find a lawyer. Upon hearing this, Yoon-soo remembered that C9 had recommended a law firm to her. She rushed to the law firm, but was informed that the lawyer Mang Law she was looking for was on a business trip and might not return until next month. The lawyer, Cho, immediately offered his services, and Yoon-soo trusted him. She explained her situation to Cho, who claimed to have dealt with many similar cases, and assured Yoon-soo that he could help. However, Cho asked for an upfront payment, which was quite costly. He stressed that this fee could be used to help Yoon-soo locate Wang Ben. When Yoon-soo admitted she couldn't afford the amount Eun-chu was asking for, he proposed an alternative solution right away. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mao-ji informed C9 that their relatives had already met Yoon-soo, and he demanded that C9 get married soon. However, C9 kept refusing, saying that Yoon-soo wasn't suitable to be his wife. Mao-ji argued that it was just an excuse from C9. Mao-ji then gave C9 3 days to provide facts that could convince him that Yoon-soo was not suitable to be his wife. When C9 tried to argue more, Mao-ji pretended to fall asleep, ending the discussion. That evening, Yoon-soo wanted to talk to C9, but he suddenly asked about her height. Yoon-soo claimed to be 170 centimeters tall, but C9 didn't believe her and measured her height, finding out that she was only as tall as his nose. C9 explained that his own height was 183 centimeters, so Yoon-soo should not be more than 166 centimeters tall. Hearing this, Yoon-soo quickly rounded her height up to 170 centimeters. However, C9 didn't pay attention to Yoon-soo's statement and continued to ask her various questions. He also gave her instructions, which made Yoon-soo nervous. Suddenly, C9 moved closer, which further flustered Yoon-soo. However, C9 was just checking her ears, leaving Yoon-soo puzzled about what was going on. C9 explained that he was examining the genetic dominance in Yoon-soo's body to compare with his own. He wanted to evaluate if there would be any genetic issues in their future children. Yoon-soo was surprised by this revelation, but C9 clarified that he didn't actually want to have children with her. His goal was to prove to his grandfather that they were not suitable for marriage using scientific assessments, including biology and psychology. Yoon-soo found C9's behavior confusing and argued that everyone already knew they weren't a good match. However, C9 explained that his grandfather didn't share that view, so he had to use this method to convince him. C9 was confident that this approach would work because both he and his grandfather were mathematicians, and they trusted data above all else. He then asked Yoon-soo to take an IQ test that he had prepared. The next day on campus, Yoon-soo told Lee Neo and Ji about the lawyer, Eun-cho, who offered her a discount. However, Ji was skeptical about this lawyer. Still, Yoon-soo felt reassured because the lawyer came from the law firm, recommended by C9. Yoon-soo also mentioned that despite C9 being annoying, he had many skills. Lee Neo once again offered to help find a lawyer, but Yoon-soo insisted that she still trusted Eun-cho. Ji reassured Yoon-soo not to worry about the money, as both she and Lee Neo would lend her the necessary funds. However, Ji requested that Lee Neo contribute more money because she had just paid her tuition fees. Yoon-soo then promised to repay them both. That evening, Yoon-soo prepared dinner for C9. She assured him that she followed his recipe, so the taste should meet his standards. At first, Yoon-soo felt a bit nervous as C9 tasted her cooking. Fortunately, C9 liked it and praised her, which made Yoon-soo happy. She also thanked C9 for recommending the law firm, which led her to a capable lawyer willing to help her find Wang Ben. Yoon-soo mentioned that there would be news about Wang Ben in 2 days. She also admitted that she had already given a deposit to the lawyer, who turned out to be Eun-chu. C9 immediately grew suspicious upon hearing that Yoon-soo had paid in advance. He then asked if she and Eun-chow had signed a work contract, to which Yoon-soo confessed that they hadn't signed any contract, raising further concerns. However, Yoon-soo didn't sense anything wrong, as she was unaware of the situation. C9 then asked where Yoon-soo had met this lawyer. She said they had met at the cafe on the ground floor of the law firm. C9 became worried and suggested they both go to the law firm the next day, which Yoon-soo agreed to. The following day, C9 inquired with the staff at the law firm, but couldn't find any lawyer named Eun-chu. Yoon-soo also couldn't find a photo of the lawyer Eun-chu among the pictures of the firm's lawyers displayed on the office wall. She admitted that she had initially met the lawyer Eun-chu at the front door. Realizing Yoon-soo's gullibility, C9 told her to go home first. After Yoon-soo left, C9 checked the CCTV footage of Yoon-soo meeting the lawyer Eun-chu at the entrance of Mang-law's office. C9 then requested them to send a photo of the lawyer Eun-chu to another law firm to track him down. Meanwhile, Yoon-soo wanted to repay Ji for her help, so she helped clean Ji's dorm room. Ji, who remained suspicious of Eun-chu, asked Yoon-soo to contact the lawyer, but there was no registered phone number for him. Ji quickly realized that Yoon-soo had been deceived again. Later at the hospital, C9 explained his theory about why he wasn't compatible with Yoon-soo to Mao-ji. He based his theory on IQ, personality, psychology, and other factors. Mao Ji chuckled upon hearing Si Nyan's conclusion. Mao Ji then pointed out that all of Yun Su's shortcomings were actually her greatest strengths in complementing Si Nyan. He explained that Si Nyan couldn't fully enjoy life and was trying to be a perfect but emotionally distant person. He continued by saying that even though Yun Su lacked in many aspects, was unreliable and easily deceived, her warmth had the power to help Si Nyan enjoy life more. Mao Ji likened them to two quantum particles, one spinning forward and the other backward. He also reminded Si Nyan that the goal of science was to make life better and more authentic. Therefore, only those who loved life could succeed in science. Si Nyan couldn't stop thinking about Mao Ji's words, even as he left the hospital and headed to the campus for a meeting with his professors. Shortly afterward, he received a call regarding the whereabouts of Chu. He left the meeting abruptly before his colleagues could express their opinions. In short, Si Nyan managed to locate Chu and immediately inquired about Yun Su. Later, Si Nyan returned to the hospital, and Dr. Zheng informed him that Mao Ji's biopsy results were unfavorable, and Mao Ji might have only 1 year left. Soon after, Yun Su arrived because Mao Ji had called her to ask for some shopping items and insisted that Si Nyan accompany her. Initially, Yun Su wanted to go alone, but Mao Ji convinced Si Nyan to go with her, and he agreed. Before they left, Mao Ji whispered some advice to Si Nyan about seeing imperfect people with perfect vision. At the supermarket, Si Nyan appeared troubled when selecting items because he had to consider both positive and negative aspects. However, Yun Su efficiently helped Si Nyan by choosing items based on simple criteria like fragrance and comfort, suitable for Mao Ji. After finishing their shopping and standing in line at the cashier, Si Nyan was impressed by how quickly they had shopped. Normally, if he shopped alone, it would take him up to an hour and a half, but this time, it only took them 20 minutes. Si Nyan praised Yun Su for saving their time. Shortly after, the woman in front of them became confused because she had forgotten her wallet and couldn't pay for her groceries. She asked Yun Su for money, promising to return it within 10 minutes since she lived nearby. Yun Su believed her and even borrowed money from Si Nyan because she didn't have enough. However, the supermarket cashier gave a signal not to trust the woman, and Si Nyan also noticed her suspicious expression, becoming convinced that she wouldn't return the money. The woman insisted she would definitely return the money, and Yun Su genuinely believed her. So Si Nyan reluctantly agreed and lent her the money. They waited for a while, but the woman hadn't come back, making Si Nyan more convinced that she wouldn't return. He suggested leaving, but Yun Su refused and insisted on waiting, believing the woman would return. Si Nyan commented that Yun Su was too trusting, making her an easy target for deception, and he advised her to be cautious always. Upon hearing this, Yun Su realized that Si Nyan had taken her to the law firm, because he knew she had been scammed by Chu again. Si Nyan explained that the world was not as simple as Yun Su thought. However, Yun Su argued that life would be boring if she were always cautious. Unexpectedly, the woman did return, though with a slight delay as she had trouble finding them. She even gave them a pack of candies and sincerely thanked them. Yun Su was delighted and promptly returned the money to Si Nyan, asking him to acknowledge that his suspicions were unfounded. As Yun Su was about to leave, Si Nyan stopped her and handed her an envelope containing money he had received from lawyer Chu. However, Si Nyan couldn't bring himself to tell the truth and simply said that lawyer Chu was very busy and couldn't help her. Yun Su readily believed this and thought she had been scammed again. This incident made Si Nyan reconsider his grandfather's advice. On the way home, Si Nyan decided to propose marriage to Yun Su. Yun Su was surprised by this, but Si Nyan suggested a contractual marriage where his house would become hers as payment. The next day, Yun Su shared Si Nyan's proposal with her two friends. Lin Nuo disagreed, believing that marriage should be based on sincerity. Later, when Si Nyan returned home, he saw Yun Su packing her suitcase to leave the house. Instead of letting her go, he bought a new mattress for her to ensure she could sleep comfortably. But Yun Su had made up her mind to leave and said they would meet again next year at her graduation. However, she suddenly turned back because Yun Lund had returned to China and was already at the house. Yun Su introduced Si Nyan as her boyfriend to Yun Lund. Yun Lund had been suspicious when she saw Yun Su carrying her suitcase, so Yun Su made an excuse and got rid of the suitcase. Later, Yun Su hid her failed exam report in Si Nyan's suit. Inside the house, Yun Lund questioned Yun Su and Si Nyan about their relationship. Si Nyan also assisted Yun Lund with some work that needed to be sent the next morning. That night, with embarrassment, Yoon-soo reluctantly asked to sleep in the same room as Si-nayeon. Realizing the increasingly complicated situation, Si-nayeon suggested that Yoon-soo considered his offer of a contractual marriage. Fortunately, the suitcase Yoon-soo had thrown earlier was found, but her stuffed toy, a gift from her father, had disappeared. Not long after, Yoon-lun became angry with Yoon-soo for discovering her failed exam report while doing laundry. Si-nayeon defended Yoon-soo, not because she was foolish, but because she had arrived late on that day, and Si-nayeon had to disqualify her. The next day, Yoon-lun left Si-nayeon's house and moved to an apartment closer to her office. Later, Yoon-soo called Si-nayeon, who was at the garbage disposal, to help her find her stuffed toy. After some searching, they found the toy in the possession of a young girl. Si-nayeon negotiated with the girl and successfully retrieved the toy, returning it to Yoon-soo. Yoon-soo was deeply moved by Si-nayeon's actions and words, and she decided to agree to their contractual marriage. Si-nayeon then drafted a marriage contract for them to sign. It explained that once the contract was fulfilled, the house would become Yoon-soo's, and he would leave. However, the contract had some rules, like no physical contact and fines for violations. The next day, Si-nayeon accidentally broke the contract and had to put money in the top box, which they could use together. After the wedding, Si-nayeon promised to help Yoon-soo with her thesis work. On the final day of wedding preparations, Yoon-soo arrived late, making Yoon-lun and Si-nayeon wait. Groomsmen arrived too, including Lu-yu, a childhood friend of Si-nayeon who would become a famous actor. Yoon-soo got excited when she saw him, but Yoon-lun recognized him and had a one-night stand with him. Yoon-lun didn't want to meet him, so she went to the dressing room, taking the wedding schedule with her. Later, Si-nayeon and Yoon-soo decided to remove the restriction on physical contact in their daily lives. Meanwhile, Yoon-lun mistakenly brought the wrong document, which turned out to be the contractual marriage agreement between Yoon-soo and Si-nayeon. On the other hand, Yoon-soo and Si-nayeon were practicing for their wedding. When they returned home, Yoon-soo was surprised to learn that Yoon-lun had found out about Wang Ben's deception, and that the house belonged to Si-nayeon. Yoon-lun didn't want Yoon-soo to get further involved with Si-nayeon, and told her to cancel their wedding. After that, Yoon-soo told Si-nayeon that Yoon-lun had found out about their contractual marriage and didn't like it. Si-nayeon understood and planned to inform his grandfather, considering his current condition. The next day, Yoon-soo tried to get Yoon-lun's approval again, but Yoon-lun threatened to end their relationship. In a difficult situation, Yoon-soo left without telling anyone. Later, Si-nayeon searched for Yoon-soo at Yoon-lun's house, but couldn't find her. Yoon-lun got worried and contacted Ji-hee and Lee Nuo, but they didn't know where Yoon-soo had gone. After following some clues, they found Yoon-soo at the beach where she used to go with her father. At that moment, Si-nayeon explained that he wouldn't force Yoon-soo into marriage, because the decision had always been in her hands from the beginning. When they got back home, Yoon-soo shared many things about Si-nayeon with Yoon-lun, eventually convincing her to agree to the marriage. The next day, Si-nayeon met with his grandfather to explain that their wedding was cancelled. However, Yoon-soo arrived and said that their wedding would go ahead as planned and everything was fine. The next day, just a few hours before the wedding, Yoon-soo introduced her two friends, Ji-hee and Lee Nuo, to Si-nayeon. Then, she entered the bridal chamber. Moments later, Si-nayeon opened the door to the bridal room and saw Yoon-soo already. He was captivated by her beauty in the long white dress. After that, Si-nayeon met Yoon-lun, promising to treat Yoon-soo as family, even though it was just a contractual marriage. Lu-yu recognized Yoon-lun and approached her, but Yoon-lun warned him not to reveal their previous relationship. The wedding ceremony began and Yoon-soo and Si-nayeon walked down the aisle gracefully. They exchanged vows and rings and everyone applauded. After the ceremony, Lu-yu approached Yoon-lun to ask for her phone number. Meanwhile, Ji-hee immediately asked Yoon-soo about their kiss. Yoon-soo explained that it was just a fake kiss. Shortly after, they all gathered for a family photo session. Yoon-lun happened to stand next to Mao Ji, and he tried to matchmake her with someone, who turned out to be Lu-yu. However, Yoon-lun declined his offer. After taking family photos, Mao Ji prepared to leave and gave a wedding gift to Yoon-soo. On the night of their wedding, Yoon-soo and Si-nayeon sat together in the living room, a silence hanging between them. After Si-nayeon finished showering, he noticed Yoon-soo smiling to herself. To her surprise, Si-nayeon entered her room and asked what they should do. Si-nayeon explained that Yoon-soo was overthinking, and he came to give her some practice exam questions to work on. So, on the night of their wedding, Yoon-soo ended up doing practice questions given by her husband. Some time later, Ji's relationship with her boyfriend ended, and Lee Nuo laughed about it. Meanwhile, C9 took Yoon-soo shopping, but they weren't shopping for household items, they were buying books. When Yoon-soo couldn't reach a book on the top shelf, C9 helped her, and she found herself admiring C9 up close. After their shopping trip, Yoon-soo met Ji-yi, who still harbored suspicions that Yoon-soo had feelings for C9, and tried to trap her with tricky questions. When Yoon-soo returned home, C9 asked her to sign a financial management agreement, but Yoon-soo, lost in thought, imagined C9 kissing her. As time passed, Yoon-soo's test scores continued to be poor, and C9 advised her to change her clothes and go to campus. When they arrived, Yoon-soo didn't want to enter with C9 and decided to head straight to her class. However, C9, peering through the classroom window, noticed that Yoon-soo was relegated to the back row and not allowed to sit in the front. He entered the classroom and directed Yoon-soo to the front row. During the class, Yoon-soo couldn't help but smile while looking at C9. After the lesson, C9 reminded Yoon-soo to stay focused on her studies instead of daydreaming. At lunchtime, Yoon-soo initially pushed away the spinach, thinking she had enough brain power. But when C9 quizzed her about the key lessons from class, she quickly devoured the spinach. Later, Yoon-soo confided in Ji-yi, admitting that she had genuine feelings for C9. Ji-yi was surprised at first but encouraged Yoon-soo, suggesting that a contractual relationship could transform into true love. When Yoon-soo returned home, she was taken aback when C9 asked why she had been constantly watching him lately. She dismissed it and gave him a gift, which a matching couple's outfit. The next day, Yoon-soo met with Ji-yi again, and Ji-yi urged her to take the initiative in making C9 feel their presence in his life. Meanwhile, on campus, C9 witnessed his classmate, Chun-chun, going through a tough time as her mother scolded her for getting a divorce. During lunch, Chun-chun confided in C9 about the significant challenges women face due to divorce. This conversation left C9 worried about Yoon-soo. Later, when C9 met Yoon-soo, he asked her to maintain some distance from him while on campus. On the other hand, Lu-yu made a bet with Yoon-lun that he could win her heart within a month. At the same time, Ji-yi and Lin Nuo sensed that something was amiss when they noticed C9's sudden change in attitude towards Yoon-soo, even though everything had been fine before. After seeing wedding photos of Yoon-soo and C9, they realized that C9 had developed feelings for Yoon-soo as well. While on campus, Yoon-soo accidentally bumped into Chun-chun, who noticed a photo of C9 in a wedding suit. Chun-chun asked C9 about it. When they returned home, C9 scolded Yoon-soo for ignoring his advice not to come to campus. He explained that if more people found out about their relationship, it could affect Yoon-soo's future marriage. Initially, Yoon-soo didn't grasp C9's words, so he clarified that he was referring to their real marriage after her divorce. Yoon-soo felt disheartened, thinking that C9 considered her a secondary figure and not someone special to him. The following morning, C9 wanted to have a conversation with Yoon-soo, but he discovered that she had left her home. She left a letter behind and also left all her money. Yoon-soo realized that she needed to create some distance between herself and C9. Staying in that house would only make her feelings for him grow stronger. Not long after, Yoon-soo found a job selling beer at a supermarket and secured accommodation in the dormitory provided by her workplace. Meanwhile, Lu-yu noticed Yoon-lun carrying DVDs of dramas featuring him, which led him to playfully tease her, thinking she might be missing him. Some time later, Mao-ji was delighted to see Yoon-soo visiting him. Later on, Yoon-soo informed C9 that she had found a job promoting products in a supermarket, and she politely declined the credit card C9 had offered her. While Yoon-soo was serving beer to customers, she unexpectedly spotted Yoon-lun shopping. This caused her to accidentally spill some beer. Coincidentally, C9 arrived with an exam question paper for Yoon-soo. He quickly helped Yoon-soo disguise herself, but Yoon-lun still had her suspicions, particularly because of Yoon-soo's shoes and skirt. Later on, Yoon-soo received a summons from her supervisor and was reprimanded for neglecting her work for an extended period. She was on the verge of losing her job when C9 once again came to her rescue. C9 openly admitted that he was Yoon-soo's husband, and this revelation saved her from being fired. She was given another chance to prove herself. The following day, C9 confided in Lu-yu about Yoon-soo leaving home. Initially, he only wanted some distance, but he started to feel a sense of emptiness without her around. Lu-yu playfully teased C9, suggesting that he might be falling in love. Meanwhile, Ji-yi had moved on from her past relationships and was getting close to a man named Woo-go, which made Lin Nao feel a twinge of jealousy. One day, while Yoon-soo was working, she encountered harassment from a man. Fortunately, another man came to her rescue, who turned out to be the lawyer Mang Law. Surprisingly, Mang Law offered Yoon-soo a job as his assistant, and she accepted. It was later revealed that Mang Law was a friend of C9 and had purposely arranged for Yoon-soo to work in his law office. On the other hand, Mao-ji asked Yoon-soo for help in cleaning his beach house. Yoon-soo started cleaning and C9 arrived to assist her. While tidying C9's room, Yoon-soo opened a fairy tale book she found there, but C9 quickly took the book back without explanation. The following day, C9 was on campus and confided in Chun-chun about his contractual marriage with Yoon-soo. C9 asked Chun-chun to keep it a secret for Yoon-soo's sake. However, Chun-chun suggested that C9 should explain the reason behind it to Yoon-soo to avoid misunderstandings. Meanwhile, Yoon-lund witnessed Lu-yu being slapped by a woman, which made her feel somewhat sympathetic toward him. Not long after, Yoon-soo and C9 accompanied Mao-ji back to his beach house. That evening, Mao-ji invited both of them to stay over. C9 helped Yoon-soo cook in the kitchen and even assisted her in tying her hair when it came undone. C9 explained that his decision to keep his distance from Yoon-soo was for her own good, and eventually, Yoon-soo understood. That night, Mao-ji paid Yoon-soo a visit, and they had a conversation. Yoon-soo mentioned the fairy tale book she found in C9's room the previous day, which led to Mao-ji sharing a story about a mermaid princess. The tale revolved around C9's parents, who went away for research, and a promise that C9's parents would return when the mermaid princess did. However, Mao-ji received the heartbreaking news of C9's parents' demise, and since then, C9 had become cold and silent. This was why Mao-ji wanted C9 to marry Yoon-soo, hoping that C9 could also experience Yoon-soo's warmth. That night marked a significant moment as Yoon-soo and C9 shared the same bed for the first time. Yoon-soo apologized to C9 for the fairy tale book incident and encouraged him to be honest about his feelings without denial. C9 responded that they didn't need to maintain their distance if Yoon-soo acknowledged their relationship, to which he had no objections. Meanwhile, Yoon-lund met Lu-yu, noticing his flushed cheeks. Despite being aware of the cause, Yoon-lund inquired, and Lu-yu explained that it was just an allergy. Yoon-lund was touched and offered him a compress. On their way home, Yoon-soo deliberately dressed up as a mermaid, similar to the one in the fairy tale, to amuse C9. During their journey, C9 asked Yoon-soo to return to his house. Yoon-soo smiled and agreed to go back. Not long after, Yoon-soo arrived at C9's house and was pleasantly surprised to find him installing new curtains in her room. He had even replaced the bed sheets and blankets. That night, they watched a romantic drama featuring Lu-yu, and Yoon-soo couldn't help but smile while watching. C9 asked if they would fall in love as easily as the actors if they reenacted the same scenes. Yoon-soo looked at him and teasingly told him to stop watching. The next day, Ji-hee dressed beautifully in a dress given to her by Lee Nuo, who she had saved money for over 3 months. She wore it to attend Woo-go's birthday party, and Lee Nuo watched her from a distance with a smile. On Yoon-soo's first day at work as Mang Law's assistant, she was warmly welcomed by all the staff. Despite it being her first day, Yoon-soo became incredibly busy, even working from home. She seemed to be oblivious to C9's attempts to get her attention. C9 had purposely worn the pajamas that Yoon-soo had bought, hoping she'd notice. When he offered to help, Yoon-soo declined, mentioning that lawyer Mang Law would assist her. This made C9 upset. Even in her dreams, Yoon-soo was working with lawyer Mang Law. The next day, C9 went to lawyer Mang Law's office to express his concern about Yoon-soo's heavy workload, which was affecting his personal life. Soon after, Yoon-soo visited lawyer Mang Law's office, and C9 had to hide under the desk. Lawyer Mang Law purposely asked Yoon-soo if her workload was too much and impacting her personal life, but Yoon-soo denied it. During the weekend, Yoon-soo suggested to C9 that he should do something small to make himself happy. C9 accompanied her while shopping and helped her find suitable discounts. Surprisingly, many housewives listened to his analysis, and C9 realized that small acts of kindness could bring happiness to others. Over time, Yoon-soo and lawyer Mang Law discovered a common interest in the comic character Tung Sung-joon, who resembled C9. Yoon-soo shared how she met C9 with lawyer Mang Law. Shortly after, C9 called lawyer Mang Law, and Yoon-soo finally learned that C9 had intentionally asked lawyer Mang Law to hire her. Meanwhile, Ji got drunk with Woo-go, which worried Lee Nuo greatly. Lee Nuo even followed them to a hotel. Coincidentally, Woo-go had intended to call Lee Nuo to watch over Ji. However, Ji scolded Lin Nuo for being too overprotective, mistakenly thinking he was trying to drive Wu Gao away when he was actually a good guy. The next day, Mang Law realized it was chilly outside and offered his jacket to Yun Su. However, C9 saw this and insisted that Yun Su didn't need it. He returned Mang Law's jacket and gave Yun Su his own. They all had a meal together, with lawyer Mang Law ordering the same food as Yun Su, and C9 purposely not ordering anything, planning to share with Yun Su. When Mang Law pointed out that it wasn't hygienic, C9 declared that it didn't matter because Yun Su was his wife. However, Mang Law reminded him that Yun Su was just a contracted wife. At the same time, Lu Yu was excited to play the role of a lawyer in his latest drama. Yun Su accidentally got scalded by an angry client but still provided valuable advice that the client accepted. C9 arrived and got into an argument with lawyer Mang Law about what food Yun Su could eat, which upset Yun Su. Meanwhile, Lu Yu became more motivated as he interned at Yun Lun's office and became her assistant to prepare for his role. When Yun Su was about to leave, she continued chatting with lawyer Mang Law. C9 abruptly closed his car window and drove Yun Su home. After she showered, Yun Su suddenly fell and her leg wouldn't move. C9 rushed in and carried Yun Su out. The following day, Lin Nuo and Ji came to visit Yun Su, but Yun Su noticed they were having an argument. After their visit, Lin Nuo explained to Ji that she was concerned because Ji tended to fall in love too easily. Ji defended her feelings for Wu Gao, saying he was different, and Lin Nuo shouldn't judge their relationship without knowing him. A little while later, Yun Su nearly fell again while trying to retrieve her documents, but C9 was nearby and caught her, preventing her from getting hurt. The next day, C9 became frustrated because Yun Su was still helping lawyer Mang Law even when she wasn't feeling well. He called lawyer Mang Law and expressed his concern that Yun Su was working while sick. That evening, C9 tried to cook steak but accidentally burned it. In response, Yun Su shared half of her portion with him. The next day, Yun Lun complimented Lu Yu for finishing his work quickly at the office. Meanwhile, lawyer Mang Law helped Yun Su analyze the case of her client Mei Mei, who had previously spilled hot coffee on Yun Su. After work, Yun Su met with Ji, who asked if C9 now loved her. Yun Su replied that C9 did love her, but sometimes he still acted distant. A few days later, lawyer Mang Law eventually won Mei Mei's case with Yun Su's assistance. To celebrate the success, lawyer Mang Law hosted a dinner party. Surprisingly, Yun Su invited C9 to the restaurant, but introduced him to her friends as her cousin. C9 insisted that Yun Su couldn't drink alcohol and should only have water. They played a game, and C9 became increasingly upset during the game because lawyer Mang Law was getting too close to Yun Su. C9 then abruptly asked Yun Su to leave with him. However, lawyer Mang Law quickly took C9 to the rooftop and expressed his desire to compete with him. C9 argued that Yun Su was not something to be competed over because she was his legitimate wife. Lawyer Mang Law insisted that Yun Su was only a contracted wife. The next day, C9 drove Yun Su to work, but they got stuck in traffic. Then, lawyer Mang Law arrived on his motorcycle and offered to take Yun Su with him. C9 got angry and intentionally bumped into the car in front of him, which startled both of them. It was actually a ruse by C9 to get lawyer Mang Law to drive his car so he could take Yun Su on the motorcycle. On the other hand, Yun Lund overheard Lu Yu defending her when her co-workers were gossiping about her. After hearing his support, Yun Lund was touched and openly acknowledged Lu Yu as her boyfriend in front of her friends. Meanwhile, lawyer Mang Law had heard Yun Su's story about her cousin Wang Ben and secretly investigated it, gathering information from Wang Ben. Yun Su shared this with C9, but he believed that lawyer Mang Law did it deliberately to get closer to her. The following day, C9 visited lawyer Mang Law and asked him not to assist Yun Su anymore. Lawyer Mang Law reminded C9 that it was actually him who had initially requested his help for Yun Su. He also made it clear that once Yun Su ended her contract with C9, he would pursue her. Afterward, C9 went to see Lu Yu and discovered that Lu Yu was now dating Yun Lund. Meanwhile, Lin Nuo accidentally spotted Wu Gao with another girl while he was visiting someone in the hospital. A bit later, Lin Nuo noticed Wu Gao with the same girl again and intentionally prevented Ji Yi from seeing them together. When the girl eventually left, Lin Nuo allowed Ji Yi to meet with Wu Gao. However, at that moment, the girl returned and introduced herself as Wu Gao's girlfriend to both Ji Yi and Lin Nuo. After some time, C9 managed to locate Wang Ben, but Wang Ben managed to escape once more. Meanwhile, lawyer Mang Law reserved the entire restaurant for Yoon Soo's birthday celebration. He even sang a romantic song and confessed his love to Yoon Soo. However, Yoon Soo couldn't accept his feelings because she was already in love with C9. As the evening grew darker, Yoon Soo hadn't returned home, so C9 decided to go pick her up. But just as he was about to leave, he spotted Yoon Soo and lawyer Mang Law walking hand in hand. Instead of knocking on C9's door, Yoon Soo felt guilty and quietly entered her own place. Little did she know that C9 had been eagerly waiting to celebrate her birthday. The following morning, C9 acted distant and avoided accompanying Yoon Soo to work. In contrast, lawyer Mang Law continued to show kindness to Yoon Soo by buying her breakfast. C9, on the other hand, had met with Lu Yu to discuss his feelings for Yoon Soo. He had a sleepless night, feeling angry and sad about the failed birthday dinner and fearing he might lose her. Meanwhile, Ji sought comfort in Lin Nua's arms after feeling betrayed by Wu Go. However, it turned out that the girl with Wu Go was his ex, and Wu Go was only helping her visit her sick mother while pretending to be in a relationship. On the other hand, lawyer Mang Law received a heart rate monitor bracelet as a gift from his female friend. Instead of keeping it, he decided to give it to C9, thinking it might help them become more emotionally aware. C9 accepted the gift and promptly put on the bracelet. Meanwhile, Yoon Lund had plans for dinner with Lu Yu, but those plans got cancelled because many of Lu Yu's fans wanted to take photos with him. Later on, C9 returned home and was surprised to see the birthday cake he had bought for Yoon Soo the previous night already placed on the table. Just then, the power went out, and Yoon Soo arrived home. She playfully blamed the candles and smiled when she saw C9 sitting in front of her birthday cake. Yoon Soo apologized for coming home late the day before and explained that she had forgotten her phone, and lawyer Mang Law had delivered it to her. C9 then asked Yoon Soo to make a wish before blowing out the birthday candles. Surprisingly, C9's bracelet lit up when he smiled as he watched Yoon Soo make her wish. The following day, they went shopping together once more. C9 tried to eavesdrop on Yoon Soo while she was on the phone with lawyer Mang Law. Unexpectedly, lawyer Mang Law approached them because a client had requested to meet Yoon Soo over the weekend. C9 was initially skeptical about a client wanting to meet Yoon Soo on the weekend, but the client did indeed show up. Not long after, C9 confided in Lu Yu about his feelings of confusion, swinging between happiness and sadness. Lu Yu suggested that C9 should kiss Yoon Soo to confirm his feelings. Over the weekend, Yoon Soo and C9 still found time to visit Mount Ji. The following day, Yoon Soo received a report from lawyer Mang Law containing C9's heart rate data when he was with her. This report brought a joyful smile to Yoon Soo's face as it confirmed C9's love for her. Simultaneously, C9 also received the same data from Mang Law. This prompted Yoon Soo and C9 to exchange messages and arrange a meeting. As Yoon Soo was about to meet C9, she unexpectedly ran into Wang Ben, her cousin. Some time later, C9 had been patiently waiting for Yoon Soo and repeatedly called her, but she didn't answer. Growing increasingly concerned, C9 went to her office to find her. However, Mang Law informed him that Yoon Soo had left 49 minutes ago. Sensing that something was amiss, they checked the CCTV footage and saw Yoon Soo leaving with Wang Ben, accompanied by two men known to Mang Law. Meanwhile, Yoon Soo found herself in the company of Wang Ben, who had taken her to meet a loan shark named Mr. Bong. Wang Ben asked Yoon Soo for her assistance, despite having taken her money previously. Yoon Soo couldn't believe Wang Ben had the audacity to seek her help, and told him he didn't need to repay her money. However, she wanted nothing more to do with Wang Ben and urged him to resolve his problems on his own. Unfortunately, Yoon Soo found herself unable to leave because of her connection to Wang Ben, and Mr. Bong refused to release her. Fortunately, C9 and Mang Law arrived at the scene. Mang Law negotiated with Mr. Bong, acting as Yoon Soo's lawyer. After reviewing Wang Ben's contract, Mang Law discovered that the interest rates on Wang Ben's debt were extremely high, but the contract was legally binding. C9 used his skills to calculate the potential consequences for Mr. Bong if the police became involved. Ultimately, they reached an agreement in which C9 would pay off Wang Ben's principal debt at a normal interest rate. Afterwards, Mang Law offered advice to C9, who was upset with Yoon Soo for following Wang Ben. Meanwhile, Lin Nuo comforted Ji, who was still feeling down. Ji expressed her desire to have a boyfriend, who could be both a friend when she was sad and a protector when others bothered her. At the same time, Yoonlun had a conversation with Luyu and felt that they needed to reconsider their relationship. On the other hand, Lee Nuo mentioned that she would help Ji-yi find a good boyfriend, and Ji-yi agreed to do the same. That night, while Yoon-soo was tending to C9's wound, C9 surprised her by kissing her. C9 also confessed his love for Yoon-soo. A similar moment occurred between Ji-yi and Lee Nuo, although Ji-yi still felt a bit awkward. The following day during breakfast, C9 made a change by sitting next to Yoon-soo instead of across from her. Later, Yoon-soo closed her eyes, hoping for a kiss from C9, but he didn't quite catch the signal. That evening, C9 felt that they needed to update their contract because they had developed feelings for each other. Yoon-soo was surprised and accidentally spilled some water when C9 suddenly suggested they sleep together. However, Yoon-soo couldn't sleep while C9 peacefully dozed off. The next morning, Yoon-soo expressed her concerns about their relationship moving too fast and asked C9 not to rush things. When they arrived at the campus, Chun-chun suggested that Yoon-soo and C9 should engage in activities that would bring them closer, like having meals together, playing together, and watching things together. Following that, C9 gave Yoon-soo a call, inviting her to the movies and promising to pick her up later. Yoon-soo smiled and accepted C9's invitation. Not long after, Yoon-soo and C9 had a trip to the cinema. During the movie, Yoon-soo, who had trouble sleeping the previous night, felt drowsy and leaned on C9. After the movie ended, C9 expressed his willingness to go through the process of understanding love, even though he didn't fully comprehend it yet. That night, Yoon-soo chose to sleep in her own room and bid goodnight to C9. The following day, Yoon-soo didn't expect to receive a kiss from C9, but he surprised her with one before leaving for work. At the office, Yoon-soo met her client Mei, who handed her a job posting for comic book writer position in her office. After work, Yoon-soo and C9 visited Yoonlun's office along with Won-ben. Yoonlun was furious with Won-ben, especially after discovering that he had taken Yoon-soo to the loan shark's office. An argument broke out between Yoonlun and Luyu, who tried to calm her down. In addition, Yoon-soo met Ji-yi, who revealed that she was now dating Lee Nuo. However, Ji-yi felt that Lee Nuo had become somewhat possessive, compared to when they were just friends. Meanwhile, C9 accidentally stumbled upon Yoon-soo's past notes about the 24 types of ideal men she dreamed of. C9 then had a conversation with Luyu, and they discussed their relationship problems. C9 advised Luyu, who was a public figure used to dealing with the media, to give Yoonlun some time to think. Not long after, Luyu encouraged C9, despite his imperfections and not meeting Yoon-soo's ideal criteria for a man. Luyu suggested that C9 should watch more dramas to learn how to be sweet and romantic. However, when C9 attempted to be romantic with Yoon-soo following Luyu's advice, he didn't succeed. Yoon-soo noticed her old notes and reassured C9, saying he was already very good. She kissed him and invited him to sleep together. Later on, Yoon-soo and Ji-yi went to the mall and saw a hesitant couple not holding hands. A woman approached them and advised the couple to express their feelings before they regretted it. Not long after, Yoon-soo met with Mang Law to resign as she wanted to pursue a career as a comic book writer at Mei-mei's company. Mang Law happily supported Yoon-soo's decision. Meanwhile, Mao Ji met with Dr. Jung and asked about how much time he had left. On the other hand, Wu Go tried to explain his past relationship to Ji-yi, but Lee Nuo arrived and revealed her romantic relationship with Ji-yi, who was now officially dating her. Not long after, C9 picked up Yoon-soo and clarified to her colleagues that he wasn't her cousin but her husband. That evening, Luyu could only watch as Yoonlun left with a director named Hung Bao for a party. During the event, Hung Bao tried to make Yoonlun drink wine, but Luyu intervened, consuming the drink himself and escorting Yoonlun away. While on their way, Luyu started feeling weak and short of breath. Yoonlun realized that director Hung Bao had put something in the wine. She took Luyu to her home, and they ended up being intimate. On the other hand, Yoon-soo successfully passed the interview at Mei-mei's office. Meanwhile, C9 was surprised to find out that the new professor at his university was his old friend, Lim Chu-chu. Some time later, Mei-mei instructed Yoon-soo to create a comic story that involved dancing, and Lim Chu-chu was delighted to reunite with C9 after a long time. On that evening, C9 had initially thought about entering Yoon-soo's room, but decided against it, not wanting to disrupt her creative process as she worked on her comic. The following day, Mei-mei approved Yoon-soo's comic idea, and announced that they would develop a comic series with Yoon-soo as the official writer. After finishing work, Yoon-soo celebrated her achievement alone, accompanied only by her stuffed toy. She confided in the toy about her passionate kiss with C9, which had inspired her to create the comic. Surprisingly, Ji-yi and the others had been secretly watching C9. They eventually revealed themselves, much to Yoon-soo's delight. Over time, Yoon-soo's webcomic was published, and it gained popularity among readers. Unexpectedly, Yoon-soo received a copyright infringement lawsuit from a lawyer. Meanwhile, Lyu continued to hold Yoon-lun's hand, even when he had to take photos with his fans. Not long after, lawyer Mang Law and Yoon-lun joined forces to help Yoon-soo with her legal case. Mang Lan advised Yoon-soo to maintain contact with the author who had filed the lawsuit against her. Despite the lawsuit hanging over her, Yoon-soo felt fortunate to have a strong support system around her. Soon after, Yoon-soo received a message from Hwanian, the author suing her, agreeing to meet. The following day, as Yoon-soo was preparing to meet Hwanian, she unexpectedly encountered Lin Chu-chu at the mall, whom she admired. Interestingly, Lin Chu-chu turned out to be the author Hwanian who had initiated the lawsuit. Lin Chu-chu explained that she had not intended to sue Yoon-soo, as it was a decision made by her lawyer without her knowledge due to her busy schedule. Upon returning home, Yoon-soo happily informed C9 that she wouldn't be facing a lawsuit after all. The next day, Yoon-soo met with Ji-yi, who expressed her discomfort with Lin Nuo's extravagant spending habits, such as dining at expensive restaurants, urging Ji-yi to visit her hometown, and investing her savings in a small business. In the meantime, Lin Chu-chu wore a smile as her friends attempted to set her up with C9. However, C9 surprised everyone by announcing that he was married. This revelation left everyone, including Lin Chu-chu, in shock, and C9 chose to leave the room. Lin Chu-chu hurriedly followed him and questioned why he had changed his stance on commitment, as he used to avoid it. C9 explained that his perspective had shifted since meeting his wife. The next day, Lin Chu-chu went shopping with Yoon-soo and opened up about her feelings, revealing that the man she liked was already married. She shared her entire story with Yoon-soo and promised to be open with each other. Later on, Lin Chu-chu met Mang Law, who informed her that C9's wife had the special quality of making people feel attached to her. While C9 playfully teased Yoon-soo by claiming she was his first kiss, making her happy, an unexpected encounter occurred on campus. Yoon-soo and Ji-yi saw C9 hugging Lin Chu-chu, which almost led to an accident with a passing car. C9 swiftly let go of Lin Chu-chu and introduced Yoon-soo as his wife. Lin Chu-chu, surprised by this revelation, didn't expect Yoon-soo to be the woman C9 had been talking about all this time. Feeling jealous, Lin Chu-chu even claimed to be the girl who had given C9 his first kiss. Back at home, C9 confessed that Lin Chu-chu had indeed been the first girl to kiss him. Meanwhile, Ji-yi and Lin Nuo found themselves in a heated argument, which resulted in Lin Nuo requesting a breakup. The next day, Yoon-soo shared with Ji-yi that C9 had been kissed by Lin Chu-chu while they were abroad. Ji-yi also mentioned Lin Nuo's breakup request, but believed that Lin Nuo would eventually apologize and change his mind. A little later, Lin Chu-chu invited C9 and Yoon-soo to have dinner with Mang Law. During the meal, Yoon-soo unintentionally wore the same dress as Lin Chu-chu, which seemed to bother Lin Chu-chu, making her subtly provoke Yoon-soo out of jealousy. After Yoon-soo and C9 returned home, Lin Chu-chu confided in Mang Law, expressing doubts about C9's love for Yoon-soo and suggesting that they weren't a good match. A few days later, Lin Chu-chu intentionally created a comic story about a contract relationship for Yoon-soo. This upset Yoon-soo, and she confronted Lin Chu-chu. At that moment, Lin Chu-chu tried to persuade Yoon-soo to break up with C9, arguing that Yoon-soo was still too young and should focus on her career instead. However, Yoon-soo asserted her commitment to C9, emphasizing that she was his legitimate wife and could balance her personal life and career. Meanwhile, Ji-yi accidentally saw Lin Nuo holding hands with a nurse, leading to a misunderstanding and anger from Ji-yi. She agreed to Lin Nuo's request for a breakup. Around the same time, Yoon-soo overheard Chun-chun on the phone with C9. During their conversation, C9 expressed his intention to withdraw from his project with Lin Chu-chu to prevent any misunderstandings with Yoon-soo. Upon returning home, Yoon-soo quickly packed C9's suitcase, expressing her support for any job he chose. As they shared a kiss, Ji-yi arrived in tears after her breakup with Lin Nuo, suspecting him of cheating. Ji even wanted to spend the night with Yoon-soo, much to C9's frustration. Yoon-soo then messaged C9, informing him that she would go to her room after Ji fell asleep. However, both Yoon-soo and Ji ended up falling asleep together. Some time later, C9 and his team were staying at a hotel for a project while Mao-ji was hospitalized, with Yoon-soo by her side. In the afternoon, C9 reassured Lin Chuchu that he was already married. While their relationship initially began as a contract, C9 had genuinely fallen in love with Yoon-soo. Meanwhile, Mao-ji expressed his belief that Yoon-soo and C9 were a perfect match and encouraged Yoon-soo not to stop loving him. Following this, Yoon-soo deliberately sought the help of Lin Nuo and Ji to visit C9, even though the two of them weren't on good terms. Finally, they reached the hotel where C9 was staying. As Yoon-soo sneaked around, she spotted Lin Chuchu in C9's room, where they were still arguing about Yoon-soo's relationship with him. C9 then showed data indicating that over 70% of his happiness occurred when he was with Yoon-soo, a higher percentage than typical couples. He also clarified that he only considered Lin Chuchu a friend. When Lin Chuchu asked for a farewell hug from C9, Yoon-soo attempted to eavesdrop, but accidentally made a noise, revealing her presence to C9. A few days later, Yoon-soo received an invitation from the Sholing agency to work as a production assistant, but it required her to go to the overseas headquarters for 3 years. C9 felt sad about it. Dr. Jung informed him that Mao-ji only had 2 months left to live. Surprisingly, Lin Chuchu visited Mao-ji and brought expert medical information from abroad. She also congratulated Yoon-soo on receiving the offer from Sholing. C9 was surprised because Yoon-soo hadn't told him about it. He told her to focus on her thesis and career, and not worry about Mao-ji's condition for now. On the day of the thesis defense, C9 held Yoon-soo's hand as they went together, but she was still late. To make sure Yoon-soo wouldn't fail again, C9 intentionally didn't become one of the examiners. Meanwhile, Lu Yu and Yoon-lund had a serious argument because Yoon-lund had accepted Hung Bao's proposal to become a lawyer. After the graduation announcement, C9 asked Yoon-soo to renew their contract and become his real wife. Yoon-soo agreed, but with the condition that she would go to the Sholing studio while C9 would take Mao-ji abroad for treatment. After meeting Yoon-lund, Lu Yu informed her that she became Hung Bao's lawyer to trap him and help Lu Yu. On the other hand, Ji and Lin Nuo both brought flowers to congratulate Yoon-soo on her graduation and took photos of C9 and Yoon-soo. C9 tried to convince his grandfather to seek medical treatment abroad so that Yoon-soo could pursue a career at the Sholing studio. However, Mao-ji advised C9 to lie instead. Meanwhile, Ji met with Lin Nuo to confess her feelings. Unfortunately, Ji was too late because Lin Nuo was leaving for Africa and Lin Nuo asked Ji to forget her. 1 month later, C9 accompanied Yoon-soo to the airport and hugged her before she left. Ji also cried while seeing off Lin Nuo, who was going to Africa. However, while Yoon-soo was in the restroom, she found a note from C9 offering his support during her time abroad. Touched by all the messages C9 had written, Yoon-soo hurried to find a taxi. She eventually found C9 at the cinema and told him that she couldn't leave the person she loved just for her career. They laughed when Yoon-soo remembered that she had left her luggage at the airport. The next day, Yoon-soo apologized to Mei for not leaving as planned. Fortunately, Mei understood her situation. Yoon-soo and C9 were visiting Mao-ji and met a nurse who worked with Lin Nuo but wasn't with her. Yoon-soo contacted Ji and tried to console her. The next day, Yoon-soo received news that Yoon-lund was pregnant with Lu Yu's child, but didn't want to tell him due to their past issues. Yoon-soo and C9 then met Lu Yu and informed him about it. Lu Yu wasted no time and rushed to meet Yoon-lund, where he proposed in front of his fans. Some time later, Ji made the decision to follow Lin Nuo to Africa. Mao-ji had also made a full recovery, so Yoon-soo and C9 went to pick him up from the hospital. Mao-ji expressed his deep gratitude to Yoon-soo because she had warmed C9's heart. Mao-ji finally admitted that he had known all along that their relationship was originally a contractual marriage. He understood that they had initially done it for his sake, but C9 denied it and insisted that he and Yoon-soo were truly meant to be together. Mao-ji grew curious about the start of their love story, so Yoon-soo began to reminisce about their first encounter at the cafe. At first, she never thought they would cross paths again, but destiny had other plans, bringing them together on multiple occasions. Eventually, destiny led them to become husband and wife and lovers. As C9 tightly held her hand, Yoon-soo asked him if he felt that his life was now fulfilled. C9 responded that without Yoon-soo, his life could never be complete. And so their story comes to a close. Moral lesson from the story: love can be as confusing as C9's relationship status. It's like trying to find your lost luggage at the airport. Sometimes you leave it behind for your career, but then you realize it's the one thing you can't live without.